Hi guys, Tracy here with another scrapbooking layout. This one is another one using the Darlene kit from Scraptastic, which is the April kit, one of the April kits. And I was really itching to scrapbook earlier today and I wasn't able to get away down to my room. So what I did was I wrote out my journaling ahead of time in my little notebook, and I also drew up a sketch. And so I just made my way down to my scrap room a little bit later on in the morning, and this is what I did. So you see me here just going through the pattern papers that come in the kit, and I'm picking out a lot of the greens that are in this kit. My house is green and it's a picture of my house. But also I wanted this one to kind of have a feeling of spring. So that's why I sort of leaned towards the greens. I thought about matting that paper, that polka dot paper, with a black border around it, but I decided that for this layout, I really don't want a border. I want it to go the whole way, like the whole 12 by 12, because I'm going to put some strips on the top and on the bottom. And I think that the border would just take away from that. So I'm going to use, so these are the papers that I've picked out. And I'm going to use these ones, and you'll see that they're mostly papers that have the green and then that black and gold hello paper, and then a multicolored paper that has the green and also some pinks and a golden color in it. And I'm going to mat my photo with this black cardstock that comes in the kit, which makes it look double matted because the photo already had a border around it. I'm just trimming it down a little tiny bit more because it was too much showing on one side and then I cut too much off. So I'm just going to recenter it now. That's the thing that I love about the ATG, is that the adhesive is quite forgiving. So you can pull it off without really making a mess. So I'm thinking about the journaling that I want to do, and you'll see I've got a fair chunk of journaling written out there, but I kind of knew that I wouldn't be making it all that long, but I was sort of, anyways, I'm just kind of trying to think here about how I want to put these papers together. So I'm deciding I'm going to use this multicolored chevron paper. This is from Webster's Pages from the #Hello collection. And I'm going to use those as strips. And then I'm also going to use this green arrow paper from Scraptastic as another strip. So I'm going to put a strip of each on the top and on the bottom, just like that. And what I had in the back of my mind was that I would put a little bit of a border punch in cardstock behind one of those strips. And I was thinking, because this is the month that I'm trying to challenge myself to use more of my tools, I was thinking about using my Creative Memories border punch tool, which you'll see a little bit later. First, I'm going to cut a chunk of this hello paper, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's like a letterpress paper, and it has beautiful gold hellos every here and there, as you can see. And wow, it's just gorgeous. I love, love, love that paper. It's too bad it's not going to make it on this layout at all. But it is very pretty. So right away, I can see this is where I'm being stubborn and I'm trying to stick to my sketch, which is really just a sketch from my head. So I didn't really show it in too much detail because it's nothing I need to give anybody credit for. But right away, this hello paper, as much as I want to use it, it's not working with the strips that I have and the background paper that I have. It's kind of like everything is really soft, and then there's this bold hello paper, and I thought maybe I could make that work, like make it be a contrast, but you're gonna see a little bit later that this just isn't gonna work at all. But I'm going to take it fairly far into the process before I decide to change my mind. So here I am just thinking about, doing some layers here. And I really love that polka dot paper with like big green polka dots and then little tiny black polka dots. I actually really, really love that paper. So now I'm going to cut down this paper into 8.5 by 11 so I can run it through my typewriter. Not run it through, but, put it into my typewriter and type on it. And I'm thinking, with the amount of journaling I have, it's really not going to work at all with the layers that I'm making up here. So then I decide I'm going to use this tag die. Now I happen to already have some tags cut with that die because I use it for my mist samples. And so I just pulled one down so that I could make sure that I kind of used it as a template to make sure that that size of tag would fit on this layout nicely because I do have I have a couple of other tag dies as well that I could have used if that one wasn't working, but I wanted to use the biggest one I could because I do have a lot of journaling to do. So there's my big shot, and you saw me roll it through with my 2 cutting mats, and you don't have to use the platform when you're cutting with one of these thick steel rule dies. And so I'm just kind of putting everything away, and there's the tag that I have. And that green paper is that the tag is cut out of is from Scraptastic, and then that green polka dot paper that I love so much is from the Simple Stories. No, it's not. It is from Crepe Paper. And then the Hello, 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 I think is from Jen Hadfield, which I'm pretty sure is Pebbles, but I could be wrong. So that is the kind of the bare bones of my first idea for this layout. So what I'm thinking here is that if I outline these strips, it will make them compete a little bit better and stand up to the Hello, Hello, Hello paper. And so here's this Creative Memories tool. Before I do my outlining, I've decided I'm going to just try and see if this border punch is going to look right with these strips. So I have this picket fence punch that actually came with this tool, and so it punches this border picket fence that you're seeing right here. This is the easiest border punch to use in the entire world. It is so easy because it kind of like it lines up and you anyways, I'm having a hard time just explaining it. But it is very easy to use because it has this little template that lines up and you can't punch it wrong. So anyways, just trust me. I can show it to you in detail in the scrap chat if anybody has any questions about it. So right away, I'm thinking this black border is completely throwing off the entire kind of balance of this layout because it's just too heavy and too much. So then I thought that this paper, which I otherwise think is ugly, this brown kind of craft brown paper, it's quite gross actually, but it does match quite nicely with the holes for my tag. You saw I used a folder there. I have a hanging file folder that I keep for cutting out the reinforcers for tags because I like them to look authentic, and that's sort of the color that the tag reinforcers are made out of. So this brown paper came in another kit from another month, and I think it coordinates quite nicely with the gold tones that are already on the layout, including the gold on this strip that I'm looking at right now, that I'm kind of putting that border under. And it also coordinates with the top of that tag that I created. So I'm going to go ahead and play around with this. But one of the things that I noticed, because I was going to just use this punch as a zigzag, kind of like a triangle type of zigzag along the top of one of my strips. But what I noticed is that it actually looks like little houses when you show a little bit of the kind of the hole that's in it. So I'm going to use it as houses instead because it's a picture of my house, and that just was completely random and just luck. I didn't plan that at all. It wasn't until I just kind of put it there that I realized, hey, those look like houses. So I just went with it. So now I'm outlining these strips so that they will stand up a little bit better to the other elements on the layout, including that black and gold hello paper, which is actually not going to remain on the layout, but I do like things outlined anyways, so I'm going to like the look of this regardless. So I'm double outlining, and at this point I haven't decided how long I want these strips to be, so I'm not outlining the ends of them at all. And if I keep them full length, then it'll look like they just kind of go off the side of the paper. And if I cut them down, then I will outline those edges when I decide how long I want them to be. So while I'm at it, I'm going to outline my tag and every other thing that's going to go on this layout. So here we go with this crepe paper. It's so pretty. I wish I got to use it on this layout, but I'll use it again. And then I'm going to outline this hello paper, also so pretty. I'll use it next time. I think my next challenge will be to use these two papers that are already cut to size and already outlined and see what I can do with them. So there we go. And see how busy that is. Ugh. It's, yeah, I don't like that at all. But I'm going to keep going, I think, anyways. I'm just picking out some of these little zigzag cutoffs from the punch because they sometimes make really cute embellishments. I've used them before. And so I thought I'd just keep them off to the side just in case I need to use them. So now I'm just taking apart that tool. It comes in lots of different pieces. I'm going to go put it away. And my title, I know I'm going to spend quite a bit of time making my title, so it's a pretty simple title, but I knew that I wanted to make some custom pieces to go under it, so I'm going to go ahead and make my title now. So I'm using for the word big, I'm using the imprint thickers that came with the kit, and then for the and melt, I'm using the Ellie Studio stickers that came with the kit. And I'm using lowercase for H and E, but then I'm going to put melt in all uppercase letters because it's one of the main words in this title. And I'm trying to play around with what this is going to look like, and I want it to fit on a circle or an oval. I'm not entirely sure at this point. And so I'm just kind of looking at how it looks sort of typographically. Oh my goodness, I'm having trouble with my words today. I'm fighting a cold. I don't know if you can tell, but I hope I don't get sick. It's finally getting nice out and it feels like spring and I don't want to have a cold. So anyhow, here I am looking at my dies, and sorry that I forgot to zoom out, but I think you're going to see most of this anyways. So I have these Lawn Fawn dies that I really bought for making cards, but they make nice elements for scrapbook pages too. So I have two options. I have this big one, which will allow me lots of room around my title, but I don't usually like that. I would rather have something squished into a space than have it too floaty. So I think I'm going to use the bigger of those two. So you're going to see me just kind of leafing through all of my dies. I keep my dies on these magnetic pieces of paper. They're sort of magnetic paper with adhesive backing on them. I get them, they're by Elmer's, and I get them at Walmart. And I stick them onto, just using my ATG, I stick them onto a piece of card of chipboard that is the same size, like an 8.5 by 11 piece of chipboard. And then I store my dies on it. So you saw me just looking through some of my other dies, just looking for some other elements that I might want to use. And here I am pulling out my Big Shot again. You've seen how it works and you probably have one. So sorry that I didn't zoom out. And because these are thinner dies, I am going to need to use my platform. So I'm just cutting out a piece of that same brown paper that is sort of ugly, but it's not so bad when you use it in tiny little bits. And I'm going to cut the scallop circle, which is from Nestabilities, from Spellbinders, out of the brown. And then the stitched circle from Lawn Fawn, I cut out of, it's actually the back side of the gold polka dot pattern paper that came in the kit. And that is by My Mind's Eye from the On Trend collection. So now I'm just going to put my dies away. There we go. And now I'm going to zoom in so that you can see me make this title piece. So I think that looks really cute, the little tiny scallops sticking out from under the stitched circle. And I love the tone-on-tone look with the slightly green, it's just a very, very light mint green background paper, and then the green Ellie Studio stickers on top. Sorry for my crazy hair getting in the way. Oh, you think my hair is crazy now? I'm going to have very crazy hair next week. So, yeah, so I'm just kind of lining it up in the way that I had it on my little piece of wax paper and sticking them all down. And then I'm making the T so that it's sort of almost to the very corner of the, well, a circle doesn't have a corner, but right to the edge of that circle. because I don't want the words the and melt to be too close together because they're the same font and they're two different orientations. I want a space there. And now I have to decide, what am I going to put on that space? That butterfly is too big and it competes too much with the big and it makes it off kilter, like it takes it off balance, so it won't be that butterfly. But I'm going to keep out that butterfly and use it for something different. And wow, I love that, and that resin arrow underneath the title like that. And I'm thinking I'm going to make that point to the tag. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So I finally settle on this pink heart, and what that does is, well, it's a white heart on a pink background, and it's chipboard, and it's from the IM collection. And what it does is it brings some pink into this element, which otherwise was really monochromatic, unless if you count gold as a color. So it just makes it a little bit interesting. I just took a tiny little scrap of the manufacturer's strip from the background paper, and I cut a tiny little flag banner to go underneath of that heart chipboard piece. And what I'm doing now is, I think I'm at my sewing machine sewing across the letters of the word big, and I'm sewing 3 strips across it. 3, I guess, not strips, but 3 lines of sewing. And there it is. So I'm just going to trim it all up. I don't want all kinds of threads hanging. Occasionally I leave my threads hanging just for I like it for kind of like a whimsical, dreamy look, and for the texture. But in this case, because it's around a whole bunch of letters, I don't want anything competing with the readability to decrease the readability of this title. So I'm not going to leave any of the threads hanging. So there's a little enamel dot just to top that off. Again, I'm kind of thinking about all the texture that I can add to this little tiny element. I'm trying to squeeze as much bang into this little tiny title piece as I possibly can. So I've got stitching, I've got like kind of the textured holes of stitching from the die, from the Lawn Fawn die. I've got chipboard, I've got gold, like a foil. I've got flat stickers and chipboard stickers and enamel dot, and then that resin arrow. So that's a lot of texture for one tiny little title element. So I really like that. So you see what I did here is I got rid of those 2 big pieces of pattern paper because they were just competing with everything and making everything look horrible. So I took them away, and what I really love this look a lot better. So I'm playing around with doilies. Which doily am I going to use? A white one or a pink one or a yellow one? I'm going to use the white one, obviously, because it really does look the best. But I do like to kind of check things out, even if I'm pretty sure that I won't like it. I like to kind of just stick things in different places just to experiment, because every once in a while I like something that I didn't think I would like, and you never know unless if you take that risk. I mean, it's not that big of a risk just moving something and holding it there and seeing if you like it. It's not like I'm gluing things down or anything at this phase. But I think that's an important part of the creative process, is to not just do the things that you know look good, but to kind of play around with it and try out different things. So my dilemma here in that top left-hand corner, you've seen me do a couple of switches with the flowers there. I want something to fill that space to balance out the shape, the overall shape of these elements. But I also really want to have something pink up in that corner, because otherwise you've got everything up in the top is predominantly green. So I need to have something with a pop of pink. And so I would really like to use that blue chipboard flower, but it's just too blue. There's only 2 tiny little pieces of pink on it. So I'm going to use the smaller flower cluster instead. And that's a flat die cut instead of a chipboard one. And, you know, again, I'm just kind of playing around with different things and how they might look. That feather wouldn't have looked bad there. And so this is a very different layout than the idea that I originally had. So it's more spreading elements around without layering so much. I mean, there's a little bit of layering, but there's not much paper layering here. So here I am at my typewriter. And I am grabbing my journaling, and I have to put a whole page of journaling onto a tiny little tag. So I am being very succinct and summarizing. And with this kind of a typewriter, you do have to press the keys very kind of like hard and fast in order to get a good firm imprint. And I'm kind of winging it here. So I'm trying to, and if I make a mistake, I can always cut out another tag. That's the great thing about using die for a tag, is that if I mess it up, I can just make another one out of the same paper and start all over again. But I don't want to do that because this layout is already taking longer than I kind of planned for it to take. So what I'm taping here is, it says, when it finally started snowing, Mother Nature dumped piles of the white stuff on us. We got 2 to 3 storms per week, exclamation point. And when you do an exclamation point on an old typewriter, what you do is above the 8 is a little dash. It's like a vertical dash. So you do Shift 8 to get the vertical dash, and then you backspace, which just moves the carriage back, and then you put a period. So that makes an exclamation point. And look, my fingers are hurting. Yeah, so that's how you do an exclamation point on an old typewriter, because they don't have exclamation points. So where am I? By late March, the snowbanks towered over us, and our driveway was a narrow tunnel leading to the garage. We are not used to that much snow, so it is great to see blueberry bushes start to poke through the snow. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that when I make a mistake on this typewriter, I don't bother trying to white it out, especially, I mean, you can't when you're working on pattern paper, but even if I wasn't, I don't usually try to white it out. Instead, what I do is I just go, like if I typed an N, I'm thinking of a word there. That's what all the hand gestures were. I ended up going with great, which is a sucky word, but I couldn't think of anything better. So it's great to see the blueberry bushes pushing through. Anyways, so if I make a mistake, what I do is, so if I type an N and I meant to type an M, I'll type the N and then I'll go backspace M, backspace M, backspace M. And what that does is it'll make a big dark M over top of my N, and you're not even gonna, I mean, you're gonna see that I made a mistake, but it's gonna clearly be an M, and it's gonna have that kind of old-fashioned typewriter, not perfect type of look to it, and I really like that look, so that's how I handle mistakes on my typewriter. So I'm just going to use my two-way glue pen to attach this little piece of a file folder. I just punched my reinforcers out of a old file folder to make it have that kind of old brown paper look. And I took some twine. I just took the brown twine because it was the most neutral. I don't want it to distract from any of the other elements. And so now that I have most of the pieces written and kind of, the typewriting is written and all of the pieces are sort of made, it's time to start adhering things down. And again, ATG is great because it's so forgiving. I put that strip on crooked and I was able to pull it up without ripping anything. And here's my next strip, which has the little row of houses attached to the top of it. And I'm putting the houses down here because they're larger and that's a dark paper, so it makes for a bold type of an element. Oh, and then I didn't press record when I came back from lunch. So the top, you'll notice I don't have the houses showing. It just, that top is what I planned on it looking like in the first place, was just the kind of like the little triangular zigzaggy look. And that's because the top I like to be lighter, so I don't want to have as much weight up there. And that cardstock is a dark cardstock. And so it's sort of like the tips of the roofs of houses, or even just zigzags. But I like that. I like that the bottom is heavier than the top. It fits well with what I want to do with this layout. So you guys missed some of what I did there. Looks like I was dancing a little bit. You guys missed some of what I did there. So what I did was I attached the typewriter to the tag, and then I attached the speech bubble to the tag, and then I put the yellow chipboard heart on the speech bubble, and I ran it through my typewriter so that through my sewing machine, so that there is stitching just on the heart and not anywhere else. I also use my tiny attacher to attach that little strip of hearts right to my photo. And I'm going to put some journaling below it, but it's going to happen off screen, so you'll see it in the pictures at the end. And now everything is just, this looks okay, but yeah, so I'm going to try to staple this, but yeah, so I'm going to take that off and staple right there. So I'm just adding some staples to a couple of different places because it just adds a little bit of interest and texture. And where this is not a very heavily layered or even heavily embellished layout, I want to add plenty of detail to it. So I'm going to pop dot this arrow, and this arrow just kind of fills in that space a little bit, and it doesn't fill it completely, but it just doesn't make it look so much like a big empty gap between the typewriter and the speech bubble. And now I'm just having a look at where I might want to place some more of these enamel pieces. I love placing enamel pieces on the edges of hearts. And now I'm going to try to staple this, and I've done this before and it worked, but for some reason I just was ripping the paper when I did it, so I decided not to staple just because it's a little risky. I mean, basically at this point, I'm almost finished this layout, and I definitely don't want to poke a big giant hole in the middle of the paper. So that's why I decided to just leave it. I would like to have a staple holding that little chipboard piece in place, but I will live without it. So here I am deciding to move everything down a little bit. I've already moved things around a little bit already one other time, but like I moved this photo, for example. This is the second time I moved it. But the reason that I moved it was that I really wanted the title to stand out. There's a lot kind of competing with this title because the tag and the embellishments around the tag also look quite interesting. So I want the title to definitely be up further from the tag, and it was sort of, but I also want it to not be too close to the strips, because the bottom strip there with the arrow paper is almost the same color as the title. So I need the title to kind of not be too close, like it looks like it's bumping into or impeding on the space of that strip. So that's why I moved everything down, was to give the title just a little bit more room to breathe. Using my tiny attacher again, just for a little bit of interest on some of these little details. Putting another enamel dot. These enamel dots are really cute. I like the shaped ones. That little heart is adorable. I love the little gold hearts on this one. And the bows, of course. I love bows. Now I feel like I'm kind of overdoing it here with enamel dots. That one really. So I floated, it was too much to have enamel dots on both of the hearts. So I floated one kind of just on the paper, but it's sort of like a gunmetal gray, and it's the only gray element on this layout. So I'm going to take that off eventually. I'm just playing around with a few different looks for enamel dots here. And so it kind of, I played around with this look here of just kind of using the background paper. It's got like a graphic look to it, and lining up the dots. That looks quite nice. I love that actually, just not for this layout and in that spot. So I'm going to take them off, but I do like it for future reference, and I'll probably use that kind of technique or that way of doing enamel dots on a graphic background paper another time. So that's it for the enamel dots, I think. Took off that gray one because I knew I wasn't going to like it there. I was just leaving it to see if it would grow on me. So I replaced it with a cream one, and that looks better. So my layout is almost done. I just have to run it through the sewing machine. So, and when I did, that heart came off. So what I did was I ran sewing stitches along both edges, like the long edges of both of those strips of paper. So there are 8 strips of sewing on this now, the tops and the bottoms of each of the 4 strips of paper. I'm tidying up a little bit so that I can bring out my misting cake box. And I love this because it's big and it catches all the stray splatters, and I'm just going to cut some masks. I used my 3-inch punch to cut a mask for my title. It conveniently was the right size. And I was going to cut out a piece for that tag, and then I realized I've got a bunch of extra tags, so I'll just use, it's exactly the perfect shape, so I thought I would just use a tag for it. And I'm just kind of laying all that stuff down. And now my white mist is almost gone. So it's taking me a little bit here to get enough sprinkles of mist on this. So I am going to have to buy some new white mist. So if you guys have any suggestions, I do love the Mr. Huey's white. I think it's called opaque white. I know that it doesn't sink into cardstock, but it works amazingly well with pattern paper. And I don't use cardstock backgrounds all that often. So I'm thinking about just buying more of the Mr. Huey's. But I'm open to suggestions, and I might even buy more Mr. Huey's and try something new. So I know people, the last time I talked about white mist, people said that the Dilutions made a good white. I have the Heidi Swap white and it's not good. It's too see-through. So if you guys have any suggestions for me for a white mist that I should get, let me know. So here is just me showing you the close-up of this layout. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see it, and then I'll just walk you around the page. So here you get to see the stitching, and I don't always do stitching and outlining, but I do like the look. It's just that extra texture. And then I like how the mist works in this one. It just kind of makes the embellishments look like they belong. And the doily adds just another extra layer of texture as well. And you can see that my typewriter makes a very uneven, and you'll see where I made some mistakes. And at the bottom, the tag was just not wanting to stay in the rollers. Oftentimes what I do when I'm working on a tag is I'll just glue it using temporary adhesive to an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And then you don't get that problem at the bottom with it shifting around. See where the B's on bushes and the TH on through is really messy. That wouldn't have happened if I took the time to do the other thing. So there was just a little piece of cardstock or something stuck under that sticker, so I had to pull that out, and that's it. And the only thing that you're missing is underneath of that strip of hearts, I did a tiny, tiny bit of journaling. I just put March of 2015. I think it was April actually, so I made a mistake on that, but oh well. So here's some photos. Check out my Flickr link in the information section for this video if you want to see the still photos of this one up close. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and have a really great scrappy week.